Excellent. Good morning. I'm excited to be here. This is my community. Yes, that's the feeling. You know, this is my community, so I just feel like you all are like the tribe, right? It's like the tribe of decentralization. So I'm gonna talk today. I'm gonna talk today a little bit about how to invest like a VC. But before I do that, I really want to set context. I want to go from the macro because I want to impart mindset about what's happening with decentralization, which I think is a historic thing. The thing that's amazing about today is that we're all the revolutionaries. We're all creating history. It's an astonishing thing to be alive today for this. And what is this? This, to me, is open source money. Open source money. In fact, the Satoshi white paper, peer-to-peer open source money. Great way of thinking about it. I've been in Silicon Valley working on open source software startups for 25 years, starting with working on the Java team at Sun Microsystems back in mid-90s. So, very excited about what I've seen. In 25 years, we've seen open source software consuming all software. Proprietary software has been completely set on the back foot with open source software. We're going to see open source money eating all the money. So, I wanted to put that context in place, and I wanted to ask you all, is this a good investment? What do you think? Good? Good investment? How do people feel about this? Okay. I'll tell you. Yes, this is not BitConnect. But wait a minute, look at this timeline. This timeline is wrong. Is this wrong? What's happening? What are we looking at? This is Lehman Brothers. September 15th, 2008, right? The largest bankruptcy in US history. Lehman Brothers fell down. This is really what has happened. And all the king's horses and all the king's men could not put this Humpty Dumpty back together again. So the question is, what happened in October of 2008? Well, let's just look at the balance sheet of the Federal Reserve. And what you'll notice on the vertical axis is trillions of dollars. And what you'll notice is things were going really nicely until October of 2008. Actually, until September. September 15th is when it happened. Downstream of there, there's been $12.3 trillion in money printing, $10 trillion in sales of negative yielding bonds, 654 interest rate cuts. So we're in a new world, right? And the thing that's interesting is that current centralized leadership is not actually trying to address or reverse this, is actually adding fuel to this debt phenomenon. So this is Satoshi. This is Dorian Satoshi, and he's kind of part of the matrix. I've been thinking about the matrix, actually, because life inside the matrix, which is inside of centralized government banking, is actually really nice, and the stakes taste real, right? Outside of the matrix in crypto land, it is janky, right? It's really kind of not a smooth ride yet. In fact, I was in a room full of bankers at the Association for Financial Professionals conference in San Diego, and I said to them this. I said, it's not that everybody trusts Bitcoin. It's that they've stopped trusting you. Right? Am I right? And one of the bankers said the most astute thing. He said, it's like a relationship where you didn't actually know how angry the other party was. Because what are they doing? They're not sleeping in their own bed. They're at a seedy motel with like seedy people doing seedy crypto things. Why are they doing those things, right? So the thing that's interesting about the publication of the white paper is October 31st, 2008. One month later, right? Lehman goes down, boom, Satoshi white paper goes up. Pretty interesting stuff. So I think I'm going to need a click from the... So the thing that's interesting to kind of look at is the phenomenon that we're looking at today, right? Because I want to get to pitch contest and everything else. So this is an animation. Many of you have probably seen this, but I still get a kick out of it every time I see it. So, there's the Ethereum ICO. And, what you're seeing kind of a geographic distribution of ICOs, So this is really just the timeline on the bottom. And what you're watching is kind of the unrolling history of ICOs based on their geography, based on their size. And in some cases, with notable ICOs, what you're going to see is the name, right? So what happens next, that's a really interesting ICO. So that's the first Asian one. And then there's the DAO, right? Big news, creation of Ethereum Classic, and quite a lot of crazy shenanigans. But now that we're in 2017, things have started getting a little bit more interesting, and there are more ICOs happening. So this is what we're looking at more or less today, which is we're about $6.3 billion in. And we've had a couple big colossal things, right? So if you look at the big colossals, there's a couple funny ones. Tezos is kind of funny. Bancor's kind of funny. Polkadot's kind of funny. I don't know if the word funny is actually that applicable. But, it's complex, right? But it's interesting, I think because of that, there's a couple of things that are less fashionable. I think humongous raises are less fashionable. I think long runways and roadmaps are less fashionable. And I think crypto mysticism is less fashionable. So how should we reason about the ICO phenomenon? So I liken the ICO phenomenon to the San Francisco Valentine's Day pillow fight. So every Valentine's Day, basically sexually frustrated San Franciscans go out in front of the Ferry Building and they just beat the crap out of each other with pillows. This is a picture of that phenomenon. So why do I liken ICOs to a pillow fight? So this is a chart of the market capitalization of coins from CoinMarketCap, and it shows the relative sizes of the various coins, except with one exception, which is I created a $6 billion fake coin called ICO. Can you see it? It's actually the red slice that's close to the top of the chart. So what I'm comparing is the total amount raised in ICO to the total size of the crypto ball or crypto economy, right? So the reason why I'm calling it a pillow fight is that $6 billion doesn't look like very much money anymore in this context, which is great. So this is my slide that describes Bitcoin as a Pac-Man. He's going to eat all the money. But what I wanted to do is get kind of to the punchline. As you start to see these pitches today, how do you reason like a VC and why? So to me, reasoning like a VC is super important. I'm just going to go back. It's super important because I have a middle case thesis which I call valuable things will have value, right? So what I'm really looking for then is what matters, right? So if you think about portfolio construction, thinking like a VC, super important to do because what you're really looking at is team. So if you go away with one thing to read, I would read Jason Calacanis's book, Angel. Super valuable because a lot of these deals are very early stage. And one of the things that he's super vehement about is diversification. By the way, Jason Calacanis hates crypto. He said if you're doing an ICO, if you invest in an ICO, you'll lose all your money. And if you're doing an ICO, you're going to jail. But, I tend to disagree. But Jason Calacanis wrote a good book, so read it. Another one is Peter Thiel's book, 0 to 1. Also read it. Another book that's great is The Book of Satoshi. You should read that too. It's pretty amazing. But getting to thinking like a VC, basically diversification is big. Second thing that's big is think about sector. So for me, one of the things, if you look, so I've got a couple advisories coming up. So 2 fintech ones, which is a lending one. I've got a remittance one. I've got social and gaming. So I've got a couple of different categories that I like. And so think in terms of like adoption patterns, think in terms of verticals. And to me, like part of the mindset is looking at the mechanics of VC land, right? Which is something that's really important is to have diligence partners and syndicates. So VCs are herd animals. So there's a lot of that kind of behavior in VC land. But to me, the reason why this is a really salient notion is that the foundational thesis is that it's 1994 and we're going to see a huge expansion of this crypto asset bubble. And if we do see something that's comparable to what happened in the dot-com boom, you don't know when you're looking at an early stage crypto asset if you're looking at Google, Yahoo, AOL, Lycos, Hotbot, Alta Vista. You don't know what you're looking at, right? So that's why diversification is important. That's why sector analysis is important. And I think, to me, team is almost everything. So I have 5 things I like: team, 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 team. And the last thing that I care about is time to crypto economy, which is how quickly can this team tilt up a functioning crypto economy. So I think as you watch these pitches, I'd love for you guys to pay attention to those things. I think those things are the big deal. And obviously team is domain knowledge, but also personality and temperament, and you're really betting on the entrepreneur. So, I've done early stage where I've bet on an entrepreneur, and it's the entire deal has been outside of my thesis, right? So it's like, why am I doing this? That person. So I think team I can't overemphasize team. So I'm working on all of these things. And then I guess the last one I'm working on, obviously you saw that last morning, which is blockchain terminal. But, just in closing, what I want to kind of impart is I do think the VC mindset is super meaningful because it is not a day trader mindset. It's not about flipping coins. It's about investment. And that's why people matter, right? Because the people matter because you're investing in the people. And then what matters after that is runway. So runway matters, and actually building things of value matter. And I hope everybody kind of like takes some of this to heart, because I think building things is the highest order bit, right? We all have a lot to prove with respect to crypto. And in a way, history hasn't been written. So we're all the authors of history. And if we can, if we can add value, build ecosystems, build platforms, build products, change the world, one crypto user, one crypto wallet at a time, then we're going to be worth what all the speculators say we are, which is we're going to be worth trillions of USD. But history hasn't been written, so it could go a different way. So I feel like it's incumbent upon us all to invest wisely and pay a lot of attention to the people. So that's it for me. Thank you very much.